Shut down screaming. Well, if a picture says 1,000 words, then this video that you're about to see is spitting an entire book.
Swear her in! Swear her in! Swear her in! Got it?
Democrats stormed Speaker Mike Johnson's office last night, shouting, chanting, and tearing down signs. The Speaker talked about it just moments ago.
They berated a Capitol Police officer, screamed at him. He was just merely standing his post. Shows again their disdain for law enforcement, as we see all around the country, the Democrats and everyone in that party, screaming, assaulting ICE officers. They did it right here in the Capitol last night. A few members of Congress went into the little foyer of my office and tore down a sign that I had up and just engaged in all sorts of political stunts and antics.
Well, Senate Democrats voted to block the House-passed Republican funding bill for the 8th time late yesterday. President Trump has some words for them.
The Democrats are getting killed, and we're going to have a list of them on Friday, closing up some of the most egregious, socialist, semi-communist, probably not full communist, we're saving that for New York, but semi-communist programs, and we're closing them up. We're not closing up Republican programs because we think they work.
The White House Office of Management and Budget posted, quote, "It is making every preparation to batten down the hatches and ride out the Democrats' intransigence. Pay the troops, pay law enforcement, continue the reductions in force, and then wait."
Now, Democrats like to whine that Republicans aren't negotiating. But hey, while military families and government workers may be deeply stressed, at least life is getting better every day for Senate Democrats.
They're losing this argument in the public. People blame Republicans rightly and appropriately for a shutdown. They're losing this fight in the public because they're wrong, and that's not going to change.
In focus now, Newt Gingrich, former House Speaker and Fox News political analyst. You are the perfect guest on this one, and always great to have you in focus. So talk to me about shutdowns and how you think this one's going.
Well, I think the key to a shutdown is to have a moral purpose large enough that the country rallies to you. And that's where I think the Democrats have made a mistake. We have a project called America's New Majority Project. We tested. People have two attitudes. One, don't shut the government. Two, don't raise spending. They're very strongly against more spending. So what does Schumer do? He shuts the government in order to raise spending. Now, that's a double negative. It's not easy to have a double negative strategy that hurts you on both fronts. President Trump proved again on his trip to the Middle East. He's very tough. He's very strategic. He's very firm. And I think, frankly, that Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, who, by the way, live about 1.1 miles apart in Brooklyn, in a city which is about to elect a big government socialist with weird values, their entire worldview is alien from most Americans. So they may think this is cool. Most Americans are not, in the end, going to want to raise spending, increase the deficit in order to pay for people who, in many cases, aren't willing to work or are cheating or are illegal immigrants. And the Democrats don't seem to get it. I suspect in the end the Republicans will hold tough as long as they need to. And I tell people, having been through these myself, this could end this week or this could end at Christmas. But I don't think that President Trump feels any pressure because he's going to methodically close down the Democratic parts of the government.
Yeah, I want to talk about that real quickly. Criticism on the left is that the president is ending jobs. Praise on the right is that the president is ending jobs that were not needed with the federal government. Talk to me about that part of it.
Well, I always thought when they'd have a big snowstorm and they'd say only essential workers need to show up, it's kind of dangerous to decide you're not essential. Because if you're not essential, why do we have you? And I think Gallup used to ask people, how much waste is there in the federal government? The average answer was 50%. So to make the case that you can't cut government, you can't reform it, you can't cut off boondoggle things like the California Fast Track Rail, which is a total joke, total waste of money, the New York City expansion of the metro, which is 10 times as expensive as it would be in London or Paris because of union work rules. I think the average American just says, fine, do what you have to do, get the budget under control, start moving towards balance, and the Democrats are going to lose that fight.
Yeah, and the president right now is working in those areas. Some of that money may be reapportioned to pay military members who are, fighting out justice and keeping watch around the world and making sure that their paychecks continue. Let's get to this. The House Judiciary Committee is demanding answers from former special counsel Jack Smith. Chairman Jim Jordan sent a fiery letter asking Smith to testify about his prosecutions of President Trump. And one of the things Jordan accuses Smith of is, quote, an unnecessary and abusive raid of Trump's Florida home. Here's Jordan just this morning.
The fundamental question, was this investigation political? Was it designed to harm President Trump politically? We've interviewed multiple lawyers who work for the special counsel. Two of them each exercised their Fifth Amendment liberties over 70 times. I think all that is why we want to talk to Jack Smith now. We'll see if he comes forward. We'll see if he exercises his Fifth Amendment rights or if he actually answers our questions.
Well, meanwhile, there's outrage growing over a recent stunning FBI report. Senator Chuck Grassley says it shows Jack Smith's team tracked private phone calls of at least 9 Republican lawmakers during his investigation into the January 6th Capitol riots. One of those senators, Marsha Blackburn, was in focus.
It's illegal. It's unprecedented. What we want to do is see full transparency, full accountability of individuals, and to see them held to the full extent of the law in this charge against us.
A lot of things egregious here becoming revealed. Your take on that most recent one?
Well, look, Jack Smith is a terrible and aggressively anti-Republican lawyer who was once rebuked 9-0 by the Supreme Court because he lied to try to destroy a Republican governor of Virginia. The fact that they would appoint Smith to anything like this tells you how sick the Biden administration was. And I assume Jack Smith is capable of any level of dishonesty, any level of breaking the law, because he's a genuinely bad person who, as I said, I mean, when you get rebuked 9-0 by the Supreme Court, that means every liberal judge also voted to rebuke you. That's Smith's record. So we shouldn't be surprised that he abused his power, violated the rights of individuals, and was wildly out of control.
Well, that is a good detail to end on. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich, great to have you today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.